5 years ago, Highway 89, Montana. Rain hammered the asphalt like bullets
Dispatch,
on
this is
steel.
Todd down. I need backup
Rachel
now.
Carter,
Suspect
29,
is still in the area. Approach
8
with
weeks
caution.
pregnant, though she didn't know it yet.
Get you out of
Pulled
here!
over a rusted
Hurry,
pickup
it's coming.
truck doing 90 in
I've
a
got you.
65. Routine traffic stop. She'd done 100 of them. The radio crackled as she approached the driver's window, her hand resting on her sidearm. The driver's face stayed hidden. She asked for license and registration. He reached for something under the seat. The muzzle flash lit up the rain. 2 shots, center mass. Rachel staggered backward, her vest catching the first round, but the second punched through the gap near her ribs. She fell. The pickup roared away, taillights vanishing into the storm. Rachel lay there, hand pressed to the wound, blood mixing with rainwater. She keyed her radio. Unit 12, officer down. Highway 89, mile marker 47. Need backup. Her voice barely a whisper. The dispatcher's frantic questions faded as the world tilted sideways. Miles Carter, 35, Special Forces combat medic on leave, got the call 90 minutes later. He was at the grocery store, buying cereal for breakfast, when his phone rang. The hospital. Could he come immediately? He drove through that same rain, hands gripping the wheels so tight his knuckles went white. The doctor met him in the hallway. Older man, gray hair, eyes that had delivered bad news too many times. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. We did everything we could." Miles heard the words but couldn't process them. She was pregnant. You didn't know. 8 weeks. We couldn't save either of them. The world stopped. Miles stood in that sterile hospital corridor, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and felt something inside him crack clean through. They showed him her badge, found at the scene, covered in her blood. They showed him her wedding ring, her service weapon. He touched none of it, just stared at the badge until the numbers blurred. Rachel Rodriguez Carter, Shield 847. Cedar Ridge Police Department. Gone. He didn't cry then. Couldn't. The grief sat in his chest like a stone, too heavy to move, too massive to dislodge. Present day, Cedar Ridge, Montana. Dawn crept through the bedroom window of a small rental house on the edge of town, the kind of neighborhood where people waved but didn't pry. Miles Carter, 40 now, woke at 5:30 without an alarm. 5 years of the same routine had carved it into his bones. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster. 23. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. Brooklyn's voice filtered through the thin walls. Already awake. Already making breakfast. 10 years old, and she'd learned independence the hard way, watching her father retreat into silence, into work, into anything that kept the past at arm's length. Miles swung his legs out of bed and stood, joints protesting. The scars on his forearms caught the morning light. Burn marks from an IED in a place whose name was still classified. He pulled on jeans and a flannel shirt, the fabric worn soft from too many washes. The kitchen smelled like cereal and coffee. Brooklyn sat at the table, her homework spread out, a bowl of Cheerios half-eaten beside her math textbook. She looked up when he entered, her eyes the same dark brown as her mother's, and Miles felt that familiar pang in his chest. Every day she looked more like Rachel. Every day it got harder to look at her without remembering. "Morning, kiddo." Brooklyn smiled, small and careful. "Morning, Dad." He moved to the counter and started packing lunches. Turkey sandwich for her, no mayo because she hated the texture, apple slices, granola bar, water bottle. For himself, leftovers from last night's dinner, whatever he'd managed to throw together. The routine kept his hands busy, kept his mind from wandering to places it shouldn't go. Brooklyn's pencil scratched against paper. She paused, looked at his forearms as he reached for the bread. Dad, how did you get those scars? Old work accident. What kind of accident? The kind that happens when you're not paying attention. She frowned, unsatisfied, but didn't push. She'd learned not to. Miles finished the sandwiches and packed them into brown paper bags, folding the tops with military precision. The fridge hummed in the background. On its door, held by a magnet shaped like Montana, hung Brooklyn's latest drawing. Our Family, scrawled across the top in crayon. 2 stick figures, one tall, one small. No one else. The empty space where Rachel should have been screamed louder than any words. Miles worked for Mountain Valley Supply, driving a delivery truck to rural stores scattered across 3 counties. The pay barely covered rent and groceries, but it kept him moving, kept him out of his own head. His neighbors knew him as the quiet single dad who kept his lawn mowed and his daughter fed. They didn't know about the silver star collecting dust in a box under his bed. Didn't know about the 14 men he'd saved in Kandahar when mortar fire turned a supply convoy into a butcher shop. Didn't know that he used to be someone else entirely. In the truck's cab, a rosary hung from the rearview mirror. Rachel had been Catholic, devout in a way Miles never understood but always respected. He wasn't religious, didn't believe in much of anything anymore. But he kept the beads there because they'd been hers, and letting go of her things felt like letting go of her. A photo of Rachel, edges faded from sun exposure, was tucked into the sun visor. Her smile caught mid-laugh, hair pulled back, uniform crisp, before everything went to hell. On his wrist, a paracord bracelet with a small metal plate, engraved words worn smooth from 5 years of wear. Never leave a fallen. A reminder, a promise, a curse. He dropped Brooklyn at school. She hugged him longer than necessary, arms tied around his waist. "Be safe, Dad," she said it every morning, fear bleeding through the words. He kissed the top of her head. "Always am, kiddo. I'll pick you up at 3. He watched her walk into the building, backpack bouncing, and waited until she disappeared inside before driving away. The teacher, Mrs. Chen, caught him before he could leave. Kind woman, early 50s, with the patient eyes of someone who'd spent decades managing children and their broken families. "Mr. Carter, do you have a moment?" Miles put the truck in park. "Is Brooklyn in trouble?" "No, nothing like that. She's doing wonderfully in class, top marks and everything, but she's very anxious about you." "Any changes at home I should know about?" "We're managing." Mrs. Chen's expression said she didn't believe him. "If you ever need resources, counseling for her or support groups for single parents, I can—" "We're fine, thank you." He drove away before she could say more. The delivery route took him north into the mountains, winding roads that cut through pine forests and past abandoned logging camps. 12 hours of loading and unloading crates, making small talk with store owners, pretending everything was normal. One of his regular stops, a general store in a town called Elkhorn, had an owner who liked to chat. Grizzled man named Frank, 70 if he was a day. Frank leaned against the counter as Miles unloaded boxes of canned goods. "Heard there's cartel activity up north again. Border Patrol's been busy." Miles kept working, stacking cans with mechanical efficiency. "That's so." "Yeah, Los Sombras. Mean bunch. Been operating in these parts for years, but lately they're getting bold." You be careful out there, son. These mountain roads, anything can happen. Miles said nothing. His jaw tightened, muscles bunching under the skin, but his hands stayed steady. He finished unloading, got Frank's signature, and left. The name rattled around in his head for the rest of the day. Los Sombras. The Shadows. The same cartel that intelligence had linked to Rachel's murder. The same organization he'd encountered once overseas in a firefight outside a compound that officially never existed. Small world. Too small. By the time he finished his route and picked up Brooklyn, the sun was setting. They drove home in comfortable silence, Brooklyn humming along to the radio. He made dinner, spaghetti with jarred sauce, nothing fancy. They ate together at the small kitchen table, talking about her day. She'd gotten an A on her science test. Her friend Emma had moved away, and she was sad about that. Normal kid problems. Normal life. If you didn't look too close at the shadows under Miles's eyes, or the way his hand sometimes drifted to his wrist, checking the bracelet was still there. After dinner, Brooklyn did homework while Miles cleaned up. He washed dishes by hand, the hot water scalding his fingers, and stared out the window at the darkening street. Other houses had lights on, families inside, laughter and arguments, and all the messy chaos of living. His house felt like a mausoleum. Clean, quiet, dead. At 8, he tucked Brooklyn into bed. She'd outgrown bedtime stories, but she still liked him to sit with her until she fell asleep. He perched on the edge of her mattress, one hand smoothing her hair back from her forehead. "Dad, do you miss Mom?" The question hit like a gut punch. "Every day, kiddo." "Do you think she'd be proud of me?" "She'd be so proud she burst. You're smart, kind, brave, everything she was." Brooklyn's eyes welled up. "I don't want to lose you too." "You won't. I'm not going anywhere." "Promise?" "Promise." He stayed until her breathing evened out, until sleep claimed her. Then he went to the living room and sat in the dark, alone with his thoughts and the ghosts that haunted him. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through old photos. Rachel laughing at their wedding. Rachel in her uniform, first day on the job. Rachel with her hand on her stomach before she knew there was a life growing inside her. He'd lost both of them in one night. Wife and child. Future and hope. Everything that mattered. The man he'd been, the soldier, the medic, that version of Miles would have hunted down every member of Los Sombras until he found the one who pulled the trigger. Would have made them pay in blood and screams. But that man had died with Rachel. In his place stood someone hollow, going through the motions, living because Brooklyn needed him alive. Nothing more. He made coffee, black and bitter, and sat at the kitchen table. Midnight came and went. He should sleep, had another early shift tomorrow, but sleep meant dreams, and dreams meant reliving the call, the hospital, the moment his world ended. So he drank coffee and watched the clock and waited for dawn. At 11:47, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. A voice, male, official. "Mr. Carter, this is Dispatch, Cedar Ridge PD. We have a situation, and we need anyone with medical training. Are you available?" "I'm not a paramedic." "We know. But your military record lists you as a combat medic. We have an officer down, remote location, EMS is 20 minutes out. She might not have 20 minutes. Miles's heart stopped. "Where?" "Highway 89, mile marker 32. Forest Access Road, east side." "I'll be there in 15. He hung up and moved, grabbed his jacket, his keys, ran out to the truck. Brooklyn. Couldn't leave her alone. He called Mrs. Chen, apologized for the late hour, begged her to come sit with Brooklyn. She agreed without hesitation, asked no questions. He waited the agonizing 5 minutes it took her to arrive, gave her the spare key, and drove. The roads were empty, rain starting to fall in heavy sheets. His headlights carved tunnels through the darkness. Highway 89. The same road where Rachel died. The same stretch of asphalt soaked in her blood. His hands shook on the wheel. He forced them steady. Whoever was down there, they needed help. That was all that mattered. He saw the flashing lights through the trees, red and blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. He slowed, pulled over, grabbed the flashlight from his glove box. Rain hammered down as he stepped out, soaking him instantly. The wreckage was worse than dispatch had described. The patrol car had flipped multiple times, landing upside down in a ditch. Smoke rose from the crushed hood, broken glass everywhere, glittering in the flashlight beam. Inside the wreck, slumped against the steering wheel, was a young woman. Police uniform, badge reflecting his light. Officer Sarah Miles, according to the nameplate. Number. Not Sarah. Emma. Emma Reeves. 28, maybe 29. Blood matted her blonde hair, ran down her face in dark streams. Her vest was torn, a deep laceration across her abdomen, the kind of wound that killed you slow if you didn't get help fast. Her eyes fluttered open, pale blue, unfocused. Backup. Called them 20 minutes ago. Miles checked her pulse. Weak, thready, breathing shallow and rapid, shock setting in. He pulled out his phone. No signal. The mountains blocked everything, turned this stretch of road into a dead zone. Emma grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong for someone half dead. If you run, they'll find you too. They're watching. Who did this? Following. Cartel Lieutenant. Diego Vargas. Ran me off the road. Thought I was dead. The name hit Miles like a physical blow. Diego Vargas. FBI briefing 5 years ago, grainy surveillance photos. Suspect in Rachel Carter's murder. Los Sombras lieutenant, military trained, ruthless, never apprehended, never brought to justice. The same man, the same organization. Different victim, same uniform, same road. History repeating itself in the worst possible way. Miles looked at Emma's badge, saw Rachel's face instead. Saw his wife bleeding out while he was miles away, useless. Saw the future he'd lost, the child he'd never hold. He could leave, call it in and keep driving, let someone else deal with this nightmare. Stay invisible, stay safe. Brooklyn needed him alive, not bleeding out on Highway 89 playing hero. But his hands were already moving. Muscle memory older than grief, stronger than fear. He ran back to the truck, pulled open the hidden compartment under the driver's seat. Inside, wrapped in canvas, was his old medical kit. Military grade, vacuum sealed, maintained out of habit more than hope. He'd told himself he kept it for emergencies. Maybe he'd been waiting for this moment all along. He returned to the wreck. Emma's eyes were closing. Hey, stay with me. What's your name? Emma Reeves. Okay, Emma. I'm Miles. I'm going to get you out of here, but you need to stay awake. Talk to me. Why'd you become a cop? She tried to smile through the pain. Family tradition. Grandfather, father. Wanted to make them proud. Good reason. Miles assessed the damage with a trained eye. Penetrating abdominal wound, possible internal bleeding. The car could explode any second, the smell of gasoline thick and cloying in the rain-soaked air. He had maybe 2 minutes to stabilize her and get her clear. After that, physics and chemistry would turn this wreck into a crematorium. This is going to hurt. Everything already hurts. Fair point. From his kit, he pulled hemostatic gauze, trauma bandages, and surgical clamps. Tools he hadn't touched in 5 years, but his hands remembered. They always remembered. He cut her seatbelt with his tactical knife, the blade old but sharp, and she groaned as he shifted her weight. The wound was worse than he'd hoped. Deep puncture, edges ragged, blood pooling in her lap. He packed the wound with gauze, pressing hard enough to make her scream. He didn't stop. Couldn't. If he stopped, she died. Simple as that. Talk to me, Emma. Who did this to you? Through gritted teeth, the words came out broken. Was following a suspect. Cartel. Los Sombras connection. They ran me off the road. Miles's jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. The cartel. Always the cartel. Like a disease that kept spreading, kept killing, immune to every attempt to stop it. How many? 2 vehicles, maybe 6 men. They left me here. Thought I was already dead. Let's keep it that way. He wrapped the trauma bandage tight around her torso, field dressing, not pretty but effective. The bleeding slowed. Her breathing stabilized, just slightly, just enough. But they weren't safe. The gas smell was getting stronger. One spark and the whole thing would go up. Can you move? I don't know. You're going to have to try. On 3. 1, 2, 3. He lifted her, fireman's carry, her weight slight but awkward with the injuries. She made a sound like a wounded animal. He ignored it, focused on moving, getting distance between them and the wreck. 20 feet, 30, 50. Behind them, the patrol car's engine sparked. Get down! He threw himself over her as the explosion ripped through the night. The fireball turned darkness into noon, heat washing over them in a wave that singed his hair. Metal shrapnel whistled overhead, thunking into trees. For a moment, everything was fire and noise and the smell of burning rubber. Then silence. Just the rain and the crackling flames. Emma looked up at him, his face lit by the burning wreckage. You're insane. I get that a lot. He checked her wound again. The bandage was holding, the bleeding minimal now, but she was sliding into shock, her body shutting down from trauma and blood loss. He pulled out his phone. Still no signal. They were too deep in the forest, too far from civilization. The road was half a mile away, uphill, through mud and rain, and he had to carry her the whole way. We need to get you to the road. Ambulance won't find us here. I can't walk. I know. I'll carry you. He lifted her again, adjusted his grip, and started walking. Every step was agony, not for him, but for her. Each movement jostled the wound, sent fresh pain through her body. She bit her lip hard enough to draw blood, trying not to scream. Miles counted steps. 100. 200. Focused on the numbers, not the weight, not the rain, not the fact that he was doing exactly what he'd sworn never to do again. getting involved, helping, caring. Tell me about your daughter. The question surprised him. How do you know I have a daughter? Your jacket. There's a drawing in the pocket. He almost smiled. Even half dead, she was still a cop, observant to the end. Her name's Brooklyn. She's 10. Too smart for her own good. Why won't you teach her? Teach her what? Your jacket also has a first aid guide sticking out. Why won't you teach her those skills? Because I don't want her to need them. I don't want her growing up thinking the world is a place where people bleed and die and someone has to put them back together. Emma went quiet. Then, your wife, was she a cop? Miles's step faltered, just for a second. How did you know? The way you looked at me. Like you've seen this before. She was. Died 5 years ago. Same kind of setup. Cartel ambush. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just stay alive. That's all I ask. They reached the road. Miles laid her down gently on the gravel shoulder, away from the mud. He flagged down a passing truck, the driver taking one look and calling 911. 15 minutes later, sirens, flashing lights, an ambulance, and 3 police cars. Paramedics rushed to Emma, cutting open her uniform to access the wound. One of them, a veteran EMT named Carlos Rodriguez, stared at the dressing. Who did this? The other paramedic, younger, shook his head. This is military-grade trauma care. Whoever did this saved her life. She'd have bled out in 10 minutes without it. Police officers surrounded Miles. Questions flew like bullets. What's your name? Did you see who did this? Are you a doctor? How the hell did you do that? Miles answered mechanically, his mind elsewhere. Watching Emma being loaded into the ambulance, watching her chest rise and fall, still breathing, still alive. He'd done that. Kept her alive when every instinct said, let it go, walk away, don't get involved. The police captain arrived. Marcus Stone, 60, with the weathered face of a man who'd seen too much and forgiven too little. He looked at Emma being lifted into the ambulance, then at the exploded patrol car visible through the trees, then at Miles. You carried her half a mile. More or less. Through a potential crime scene. She was dying. Didn't have time to worry about evidence. Captain Stone studied Miles the way a jeweler studies a diamond, looking for flaws, for cracks. What's your full name? Jack Rowan. No, that was wrong. Old habit. Miles Carter. You military? Miles hesitated. Was. Not anymore. What branch? Does it matter? It does to me. Miles met his eyes, saw the steel behind them. Special Forces, combat medic, honorably discharged 5 years ago. Captain Stone nodded slowly, pieces clicking together. We're going to need a statement. Tomorrow. Right now, I need to get home to my daughter. Mr. Carter, thank you. You saved one of ours tonight. Miles didn't respond, just did what anyone should do. He turned to leave, heading for his truck. Captain Stone called after him. Mr. Carter, what made you stop? Most people see a wreck like that. They call it in and keep driving. Miles paused, didn't turn around. Most people aren't combat medics. But that's not why you stopped. No. Then why? Because 5 years ago, my wife bled out on this same road while I was too far away to help. I couldn't save her, but I could save Emma Reeves. He walked to his truck and climbed inside. As he started the engine, he glanced at the ambulance. Emma was conscious, barely, looking at him through the rear windows. Their eyes met across the distance. She raised one hand, weak and trembling. Wrapped around her wrist was his paracord bracelet. It must have fallen off during the rescue. She was keeping it. Never leave a fallen. Miles nodded once, a soldier's acknowledgement. Then he drove away into the rain. 3 days passed. Miles went through the motions, woke up, made breakfast, dropped Brooklyn at school, drove his route, picked her up, made dinner, tucked her in, sat alone in the dark. Repeat. He didn't watch the news, didn't check social media, didn't want to know if Emma Reeves lived or died. Knowing meant caring, and caring meant pain. But the world doesn't let you hide. On the third night, his phone rang. Unknown number again. He answered out of habit. Mr. Carter? This is Detective Lisa Martinez, Cedar Ridge PD. We need to speak with you about the incident. I gave my statement. We have follow-up questions. Can we come by tomorrow morning? Miles looked at Brooklyn, asleep in her room, safe and unaware. Fine. 8 a.m. They arrived at 8 exactly. Detective Martinez, mid-30s, sharp eyes and sharper suit. Detective James Park, 40, with the bearing of a man who'd served and the scars to prove it. Miles let them in, told Brooklyn to finish her homework in her room. She looked worried. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart. Dad just needs to talk to these people. Are you in trouble? A little, but it's okay, I promise. She hugged him and retreated to her room. Miles turned to the detectives. They sat in his small living room, surrounded by second-hand furniture and the ghosts of a life that used to be. Detective Park's eyes went immediately to the shadow box on the wall. Inside, medals and ribbons, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, and in the center, a Silver Star, the second highest military decoration for valor. That's quite a collection. Miles didn't look. Old life. Martinez opened her notebook. Mr. Carter, we've reviewed your military record. You were Special Forces, combat medic, expert in trauma care. Why didn't you mention that when we asked how you saved Officer Reeves? You asked if I was a doctor. I said no. You asked if I was a medic. I said I used to be. I answered honestly. You were being evasive. I was being private. There's a difference. Park leaned forward. Your record is mostly redacted. Classified missions, black ops, the works. But we saw enough. Silver Star recipient, 14 men saved in a firefight in Kandahar. You're a legitimate war hero. I'm a delivery driver. Why? Why is a decorated combat medic hauling groceries in the middle of Montana? Because that's the job I have. The front door opened. Captain Stone walked in, uninvited but clearly expected. Miles stood, instinct and training demanding respect for rank. Captain. Sit down, Mr. Carter. This isn't a military briefing. Miles sat. Stone pulled up a chair, his expression unreadable. Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct. Your wife, Rachel Carter, was killed 5 years ago during a drug interdiction. Traffic stop gone wrong. The suspects were never caught, but intelligence suggested Los Sombras cartel involvement. Is that correct? Yes. And now you've saved Officer Emma Reeves, who was investigating Los Sombras when she was run off the road by a man named Diego Vargas. The same Diego Vargas suspected in your wife's murder. Miles said nothing. His hands tightened into fists. I don't believe in coincidences, Mr. Carter. You left the military immediately after your wife's death, moved here, became a civilian, stayed quiet, and now you save an officer investigating the same organization that killed Rachel. Why? Because she was dying and I was there. That simple? Miles met his eyes. That simple. Martinez pulled out a tablet, showed him a photo. Diego Vargas, 38, hard face, cartel tattoos visible on his neck. Do you recognize this man? Miles stared at the photo. memorized every line, every detail. No. You sure? Because our records show you requested his file from DEA contacts 2 days ago. The room went silent. Miles realized his mistake. He'd been sloppy, desperate for information, and now it was coming back to bite him. I wanted to know who ran Emma off the road. Why? Because if I'm going to help, I need to know who we're dealing with. Help? Stone leaned back. We didn't ask for your help. Not yet. Another knock. This time, Miles tensed. He wasn't expecting anyone else. Martinez opened the door. Emma Reeves wheeled herself in, using a wheelchair, her torso wrapped in bandages visible under her shirt. She looked pale, thin, but alive. Her eyes found Miles immediately. Mr. Carter, Officer Reeves, you should be in the hospital. Checked myself out. Had to talk to you. She wheeled herself into the room, and everyone shifted to make space. Miles noticed small things. The expensive watch on her wrist, Patek Philippe, $30,000 if it was genuine. The cashmere sweater, designer label. The way she held herself, even injured, with the posture of someone used to boardrooms, not patrol cars. Something was off. Martinez spoke before Emma could. Mr. Carter, do you know who Officer Reeves is? A cop. A brave one. Nearly died doing her job. Emma smiled sadly. And a billionaire. Former CEO of Reeves Pharmaceutical, a company worth $2.3 billion that my family has owned for 3 generations. Miles stared. What? Emma pulled out her phone, showed him a Forbes article. The headline? Reeves Pharmaceutical heiress resigns CEO position. I want to do something meaningful. The photo showed Emma in an Armani suit, standing in front of a corporate logo. 18 months ago, she'd walked away from everything. Money, power, privilege. To become a rookie cop making $45,000 a year. You were a CEO? I was a lot of things. Now I'm a police officer. Miles felt anger rising, hot and irrational. So this is what? Rich kid playing dress-up? Cosplay cop? Emma didn't flinch. No. This is me trying to do the right thing for the first time in my life. You know how many real cops struggle to feed their families on that salary? And you're treating it like a game. I'm not playing anything. I trained like everyone else. I bled like everyone else. I almost died like everyone else. But you always have a safety net. If you get tired, you go back to your penthouse. Everyone else? They don't have a choice. Emma's voice shook. You think I don't know that? You think I don't wake up every day feeling like a fraud? But I'm still here. I'm still wearing the uniform. And I'll keep doing this job even when people like you look at me and only see the money. Miles stood, paced to the window. This was too much. Emma wasn't just some rookie cop. She was a billionaire slumming it, pretending to understand the lives of people who had no choice but to work until their bodies gave out. It made everything he'd done feel cheap, tainted. Stone cut in. Enough. We're not here to debate Officer Reeves's career choices. We're here because Los Sombras is still operating, Diego Vargas is still free, and we need someone who understands tactical operations, someone who thinks like a soldier. I'm not a soldier anymore. Emma wheeled closer. Mr. Carter, Miles, I need to tell you something. We've been investigating Los Sombras for 6 months. We know they've been surveilling you. We found photos. your house, Brooklyn's school. You're on their radar whether you help us or not. Martinez handed him a file. Inside, surveillance photos. Miles at the grocery store, Brooklyn getting on the school bus, his truck parked outside the elementary school, all taken within the last month. His blood ran cold. They know who you are. They know about Brooklyn. And if they connect you to saving me, they'll come for you. Miles's hands shook as he flipped through the photos. His little girl, circled in red marker, targeted, hunted, because he'd stopped to help, because he'd broken his own rule and gotten involved. Let's go, the enemy can use to hurt you. What do you want from me? Stone leaned forward. Consulting, tactical analysis. We're planning a raid on their distribution center. We need someone who understands how these operations work, someone who can keep my officers alive. I don't go into the field. I don't carry weapons. That's non-negotiable. Agreed. You stay in the command vehicle. But your expertise could be the difference between bringing everyone home safe or loading body bags. Miles looked at the photos again. Brooklyn's smiling face, unaware she was being watched by predators. He thought about Rachel, bleeding out while he was miles away, helpless. He thought about Emma, dying in that wreck, and the choice he'd made to stop, to help, to care. The man he used to be would have hunted Vargas down alone, made it personal, made it bloody. But that man was gone. In his place stood a father who'd already lost everything once and couldn't survive losing it again. But if Vargas was already targeting Brooklyn, then hiding wouldn't save her. Only action would. I'll consult, analyze tactics, train your people in combat medicine. But the second I say something's too dangerous, you listen. Deal? Stone extended his hand. Deal. They shook. Emma reached into her pocket, pulled out a small box. Inside was Miles's paracord bracelet, cleaned and polished. With it, a note in shaky handwriting. Never leave a fallen. Thank you for not leaving me. Emma R. Miles took the bracelet, stared at it. The metal plate caught the light. He'd worn this thing for 5 years, a reminder of who he used to be, what he used to stand for. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten. He put it back on his wrist where it belonged. After the detectives left, Brooklyn emerged from her room. Dad, what did those people want? Miles knelt to her level, meeting her eyes. They want me to help them with something. Teaching stuff. Are you going to be in danger? No more than crossing the street. I promise. Brooklyn hugged him tight. I don't want to lose you, too. You won't. I'm not going anywhere, kiddo. But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. He was already going somewhere, back into the world he'd left behind, back into the fight. And once you stepped back onto that path, there was no guarantee you'd make it home. That night, after Brooklyn fell asleep, Miles sat alone in the kitchen. He made coffee, black and bitter, and thought about the choice he'd made, about Rachel and the child he'd never met, about Emma Reeves, billionaire and cop, dying in the rain, about Diego Vargas, the man who'd taken everything from him and was still out there, still killing, still winning. For 5 years, Miles had been a ghost, moving through the world but not part of it, alive but not living. He'd told himself it was for Brooklyn that staying invisible kept her safe. But maybe that was just an excuse. Maybe he'd been hiding from his own grief, his own guilt, his own failure to save the person who mattered most. Emma's words echoed in his head. I want to do something meaningful. The same reason she'd walked away from billions. The same reason she'd put on a uniform and risked her life for strangers. Maybe they weren't so different after all. Both trying to make sense of a world that took more than it gave. Both searching for redemption in service. Miles picked up his phone, scrolled to a photo of Rachel. She was laughing in the picture, her whole face lit up with joy. He'd taken it a week before she died, at a department barbecue. She'd just found out she was being recommended for a commendation. Proud, happy, alive. What would she want him to do? Hide or fight? The answer came to him clearly, in her voice, as if she were sitting beside him. You're a medic, Miles. You save people. That's who you are. Don't let grief turn you into someone who walks away when people need you. He closed his eyes and made his choice. Not for revenge, not for justice, but because Brooklyn deserved to grow up in a world where men like Diego Vargas didn't get to win. Where doing the right thing mattered more than staying safe. Where her father was someone she could be proud of, not a broken shell going through the motions. Tomorrow, he'd start training the Cedar Ridge Police Department. He'd teach them how to save each other when bullets flew and backup was 20 minutes away. He'd analyze their tactics, find the weaknesses, make them stronger. And when they went after Los Sombras, he'd make sure every single one of them came home alive. For the first time in 5 years, Miles Carter felt like a soldier again. And it terrified him. Because soldiers died. Soldiers made sacrifices. Soldiers left families behind. But soldiers also stood between the innocent and the dark. And right now, that was exactly what Brooklyn needed him to be. He finished his coffee and went to bed. Tomorrow would come whether he was ready or not. And with it, the long road back to the man he used to be. 2 weeks later, Miles stood in the Cedar Ridge Police Department training room, 15 officers watching him with varying degrees of skepticism. The space smelled like stale coffee and sweat, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, walls covered with safety posters and outdated tactical diagrams. Captain Stone stood to his side, arms crossed, face unreadable. Emma sat in the front row, still using crutches, but mobile now, her injuries healing faster than the doctors expected. She met Miles's eyes and nodded once. Encouragement or solidarity, he couldn't tell which. This is Miles Carter, former Special Forces combat medic. He'll teach you how to survive. Officer Jake Morrison, 30, leaned back in his chair with the casual arrogance of someone who'd been on the force 6 years and thought he'd seen everything. With all due respect, Captain, we've had tactical training. We know how to handle ourselves. Miles stepped forward, his movements economical, precise. When was the last time you packed a penetrating abdominal wound while under fire? Morrison's smirk faded. We don't operate under fire. We're not military. Tell that to Officer Reeves. The room went silent. Emma shifted in her seat, the movement drawing everyone's attention to her bandaged torso, the crutches leaning against her chair. Morrison looked down, properly chastised. Miles didn't press the advantage. He'd made his point. He saved my life when I had minutes left. I suggest you listen. Miles set up a tactical mannequin on the table, realistic enough to make several officers uncomfortable. Simulated wounds, arterial bleeding, the works. The first 60 seconds in a trauma situation determine if someone lives or dies. I'm here to make sure you live. For the next 3 hours, he drilled them relentlessly. Tourniquet application,
7 seconds from grab to tight. Wound packing, proper technique versus the sloppy half measures that got people killed. Pressure points.
Emergency airway management. Sucking chest wounds. The officers practiced on each other, fumbling at first, then getting faster as muscle memory took over. Miles moved between them, correcting grip, demonstrating again when someone couldn't get it right, patient but firm. Officer Tyler Grant, 24 and fresh from the academy, struggled with the tourniquet. His hands shook, the fabric twisting wrong. Why didn't they teach us this in training? Because police training assumes EMS arrives in 8 minutes. In rural Montana, could be 30. By then, you're dead. Your partner's dead. The person you're trying to help is dead. This isn't about looking good on paper. It's about not bleeding out on a mountain road while everyone waits for someone else to save them. Grant nodded, tried again, got it right this time. Miles watched Emma watching him, saw something shift in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Understanding that this wasn't just teaching, it was exorcism.
Every technique he demonstrated, every correction he made, was him trying to rewrite the night Rachel died. Trying to arm these strangers with the skills that might have saved his wife if someone, anyone, had known what to do. After the session ended, officers filed out, some thanking him, others still processing. Morrison approached, extended his hand. I was wrong. That was valuable. Thank you. Just make sure you remember it when it counts. Emma waited until the room emptied before wheeling over. You're good at this. Teaching. Miles packed his equipment. Muscle memory. More than that. You care. It shows. Caring gets people killed. Not caring kills them faster. He looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since the hospital. The expensive watch was gone, replaced with a basic Timex. The designer clothes swapped for jeans and a department-issued sweatshirt. She'd showered that morning, but her hair was still damp, pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No armor. Just a woman trying to find her place in a world that didn't make sense to her anymore. Captain told me about your wife, about Rachel. Did he? I'm sorry. I can't imagine what that was like. You shouldn't have to imagine it. That's the point of all this. Emma's hands tightened on the wheelchair arms. I read the report. She called for backup, but it never came. Communication failure. Dispatcher thought she'd cleared the stop. By the time they realized something was wrong, she was already gone. Miles finished. Along with our child. She was 8 weeks pregnant. Didn't even know yet. The weight of that hung between them, too heavy for words. Emma reached out, hesitated, then touched his arm lightly. For what it's worth, you're giving these officers something Rachel didn't have. A fighting chance. Is that enough? It's more than nothing. Sometimes that's all we get. Miles thought about that as he drove home. More than nothing. Such a low bar. But in his world, in the world Rachel had inhabited, and Emma now walked through, it was the difference between breathing and bleeding out. He picked up Brooklyn from school, listened to her chatter about a science project on volcanoes, made dinner, went through the evening routine. Normal on the surface. Underneath, his mind churned with tactical scenarios, wound patterns, the 100 ways people could die, and the handful of ways to stop it. That night, his phone buzzed. Text from Emma. Can I ask you something? Not about work. He stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back. Sure. How's Brooklyn handling all this? The training, the time commitment? She's resilient, stronger than she should have to be at 10. I'd like to meet her sometime, if that's okay. Miles's first instinct was to refuse. Keep Brooklyn separate from this world, from the violence and death that came with it. But Emma had already seen the drawing in his jacket, already knew Brooklyn existed. And there was something in the request that felt genuine, not intrusive. Maybe. I have a niece, Maya, about Brooklyn's age. Maybe they could meet? Play together? He thought about Brooklyn's shrinking social circle, the way she'd retreated after Rachel died, afraid to make friends because friends could be lost too. Let me think about it. No pressure. Offer stands. 3 days later, Miles stood in the department war room, walls covered with surveillance photos and maps of Los Sombras operations. Captain Stone, Detective Martinez, Detective Park, Emma, and DEA agent Sarah Chen, 40 and built like someone who'd spent her career in gyms and firing ranges. Chen pointed to a location on the map. Morrison Lumber Mill, North Side. Abandoned 15 years ago, but thermal imaging shows activity. Lots of it. How many? Chen pulled up satellite photos. 12 to 15 heat signatures. Could be workers, could be guards. Intel suggests this is their main distribution hub. Heroin, fentanyl, weapons, everything moves through here before hitting the streets. Miles studied the building layout, old blueprints pulled from county records. 3 entry points. Front door, east side loading dock, west side windows, 12 feet up, and the rear exit. What about the rear? Miles traced the door frame with his finger. If I'm defending this building, I rig this exit with explosives. Anyone coming through the front drives suspects toward the rear. They hit the door, it blows, everyone dies. Clean sweep. Park frowned. That's elaborate for a cartel operation. Is it? Diego Vargas has military training, Mexican Army Special Forces, dishonorably discharged for insubordination, joined Los Sombras in 2015. He knows tactical operations. He knows how we think. How do you know all this? Because I requested his file from DEA contacts. If I'm going to help you stop him, I need to know who we're fighting. Stone looked at him with new respect. What else did you find? Miles pulled out his own folder, thicker than it should be. Diego Vargas, 38, Special Forces trained in demolitions and small unit tactics, suspected in 17 murders across 3 states, and 5 years ago, he was the tactical leader of the team that killed my wife. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Emma's face went pale. Miles, I didn't know he was... The one. Yeah. Rachel wasn't random. Los Sombras was moving a shipment through Cedar Ridge. She stumbled onto it during a traffic stop. Vargas made the call to eliminate the threat. Professional. No witnesses. Emma's voice came out small. There was a witness. The DEA informant who survived, who died 2 months later, officially ruled suicide. Unofficially, Vargas tied up loose ends. Martinez's phone rang. She stepped out, came back 60 seconds later, her face ashen. We have a situation. Patrol just found a package on your front porch, Mr. Carter. Miles stood so fast his chair tipped over. Brooklyn, she's fine. She's at school. Bomb squad is checking the package now. Everyone rushed to the monitors, live feed from Miles's house. The bomb squad tech, encased in protective gear, carefully opened the cardboard box. No wires, no explosive signatures, just a photograph. The tech held it up to the camera. Brooklyn at school, playing on the jungle gym during recess. Someone had circled her face in red marker. Underneath, a message in block letters. We know where she is. Miles's hands clenched so hard his knuckles cracked. His vision tunneled, the edges going red. Every protective instinct screamed at him to run, to grab Brooklyn and disappear, to put as many miles between them and Cedar Ridge as possible. But running meant Vargas won, meant the threat followed them wherever they went, meant living in fear forever. We'll put protection on her immediately. No, you'll move her. Different school, different name. Witness protection protocols. Miles, we can protect her here. Can you? You couldn't protect Emma. You can't even find Vargas. Don't tell me you can protect my daughter when you've already proven you can't. He walked out before anyone could respond, heading for the parking lot. Emma caught up with him in the hallway, moving faster on crutches than she should be able to. Miles, wait! He spun on her. I shouldn't have agreed to this. I knew better. I knew getting involved would put her at risk. Vargas already knew about you. The surveillance photos prove that. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I could have stayed invisible. Could have moved us to a different state. Could have what? Run for the rest of your life? Teach Brooklyn that when bad people threaten you, you hide? I'd rather teach her to hide than bury her. Emma planted her crutches and stood as firm as her injuries allowed. Then let us help you. Protective custody for Brooklyn, armed officers at her school, safe house if needed. But don't shut us out. We're on your side. Miles took a shuddering breath, fighting for control. What would you do if Maya was in danger? I'd tear down heaven and hell to keep her safe. But I wouldn't do it alone, and neither should you. The words hit harder than any physical blow. For 5 years, Miles had operated alone, convinced that letting people in meant giving them the power to hurt him. But alone hadn't saved Rachel. Alone hadn't stopped Vargas. Alone was just another word for afraid. Okay, we do it your way. But if anything happens to her, it won't. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. Then I'll make one I can. I won't stop until Vargas is behind bars or in the ground. Whatever it takes. They stood in the hallway, the fluorescent lights humming. Two broken people trying to put each other back together through sheer force of will. Miles nodded once. Okay. Within an hour, Brooklyn was moved to a safe house, a rural property 20 miles outside town with 24-hour police protection. Miles drove her there himself, her confusion and fear radiating off her in waves. Daddy, what's happening? Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. But I'm helping some people with something important, and I need to make sure you're extra safe while I do that. Are you going to fight bad guys? I'm going to make sure the good guys win. Brooklyn hugged him tight enough to hurt. Be careful. Always am, kiddo. I love you. Mrs. Chen, her teacher, had volunteered to stay with her, bless the woman. She gave Miles a knowing look as he left, the kind that said she understood more than he'd told her. He kissed Brooklyn's forehead one more time, then forced himself to walk away. Looking back would break him, and he needed to stay intact for what came next. The drive back to town took forever and no time at all. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. Mr. Carter? This is Elena Reeves, Emma's mother. Miles almost drove off the road. Mrs. Reeves, I wanted to thank you for saving my daughter's life. The doctor said without your intervention, she would have died before the ambulance arrived. I just did what needed doing. Emma told me you lost your wife. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. Her voice cracked, and Miles heard genuine emotion there. Not the polished sympathy of someone reading from a script,
but raw maternal fear at how close she'd come to losing her child. We're very different, you and I. Different worlds, different lives. But we both love our daughters more than anything. That's common ground.
It is. Emma also told me she's asked you to let Brooklyn meet Maya, my granddaughter. I think that would be good for both of them. They've both lost people they love. Sometimes children heal each other in ways adults can't. Miles pulled over, unable to drive and process this conversation simultaneously. Your daughter walked away from billions to wear a badge. Does that bother you? Elena laughed, but it was bitter. Every single day. But not for the reasons you'd think. I'm not bothered she left the company. I'm terrified she's going to get killed doing a job that pays poverty wages and offers no protection from men like Diego Vargas. The money never mattered to me, Mr. Carter. My daughter's life does. Then we want the same thing. Good. Keep her alive, and I'll make sure Brooklyn has everything she needs. Security, resources, whatever it takes. I don't need charity. It's not charity. It's a mother protecting a child because she knows what it's like to almost lose one. Please, let me help. Miles thought about Brooklyn at the safe house, scared and confused. About the target Vargas had painted on her back. About pride versus pragmatism. Okay, but nothing visible. No bodyguards in suits, just competent people who know what they're doing. I have access to the best private security in the country, former SEALs, all of them. They'll be invisible until they need not to be. Thank you. He hung up and sat in his truck, hands shaking. Emma's mother. A woman who probably had more money in her checking account than he'd earn in 10 lifetimes, offering to protect his daughter. The class divide should have made him refuse. Pride, dignity, the working man's code that said you didn't take handouts from the rich. But Brooklyn's safety mattered more than his ego. When he returned to the station, Emma was waiting. My mother called you. She did. I didn't ask her to. She did that on her own. I know. And I said yes. Emma's surprise was genuine. You did? Your mother pointed out that we both love our daughters more than anything else. Hard to argue with that. She's not what people expect. The billionaire pharmaceutical mogul. Most people think she's some heartless corporate shark. But she built that company from almost nothing after my grandfather died. Worked 80-hour weeks, sacrificed everything, so my father and I could have security. Why'd you leave it? Because security isn't the same as purpose. I had money, power, influence, could buy anything, go anywhere, do anything. But at the end of the day, I'd look in the mirror and see someone playing a role. The Reeves heiress, the youngest CEO in company history. Impressive resume, empty soul. And now? Now I look in the mirror and see someone who matters. Even if I'm terrible at it, even if people like Morrison think I'm a rich girl playing dress-up, at least I'm trying to be something real. For what it's worth, you're not terrible at it. You were tracking Vargas for 6 months before he made his move. That's solid police work. I got lucky, and I got sloppy. Let him see me, gave him time to set up the ambush. You survived. That's not nothing, because you saved me. Which brings us back to the fundamental problem. I'm only alive because someone with your skills happened to be in the right place. How many other officers aren't that lucky? That's why we're doing this. The training, the raid. So next time, they have the skills to save each other. 3 days later, final operational briefing. 20 officers, SWAT team, DEA agent Chen. The room felt too small, the air too thick. Stone laid out the plan. Intelligence confirms Los Sombras is using Morrison Mill as their distribution hub. Shipment arrives tomorrow at 5 a.m. That's our window. Miles stood at the tactical map. 3 entry points. Front door, they'll expect. Loading dock on the east side, secondary entry. Windows on the west, tertiary access. The rear exit is a trap. Explosives, possibly tripwire. Team 3 stays back minimum 50 meters. Your containment, not entry. Morrison, humbled since the training session, raised his hand. How do we know it's trapped? Because it's what I would do. And Vargas thinks like I do. Stone assigned teams. Team 1, front entry, led by Detective Park. Team 2, loading dock, led by Morrison. Team 3, rear containment, led by Martinez. SWAT provides cover and high ground. Emma, your observation only in the command vehicle. Understood, Captain. Miles, your tactical consultant. Command vehicle, no field deployment. Agreed. Agent Chen's phone buzzed. She read the message, her expression darkening. We have a problem. DEA informant just reported that Vargas knows about the raid. Everyone froze. Stone's voice went deadly quiet. How? We don't know. But the informant says Vargas is preparing for an assault. He's bringing in reinforcements, setting up defensive positions. It's a trap. He's turning the mill into a kill box. Martinez reached for her radio. We should abort. We abort. He disappears again. This is our best shot at him. Miles studied the map, mind racing through scenarios. Or it's exactly what he wants. Draw out the police force, hit them hard, send a message that nobody touches Los Sombras. So what do? We change the plan. If Vargas expects a dawn raid, we hit him at midnight. Different timeline, different approach. He'll be rotating shifts, lower alert status. We use surprise as our advantage. Midnight gives them darkness advantage and gives us the element of surprise. Right now, Vargas thinks he's outsmarted us. Let's prove him wrong. Stone made the decision. Midnight raid. But we keep this between us. No radio traffic, no digital communications. Paper only. You think we have a leak? I think Vargas knew about Emma's investigation before she was run off the road. I think he knew we were planning a raid. Someone's feeding him information. If he finds out about the timeline change, we know the leak is someone in this room. Officers looked at each other, suspicion poisoning the air. Miles counted heads. 8 people. If there was a mole, one of these 8 was dirty. Park, longtime veteran. Martinez, decorated detective. Morrison, arrogant but seemingly loyal. Chen, federal agent. Stone himself. Emma. And him. 7 suspects, 1 traitor. We tell everyone else the raid is postponed 48 hours due to weather. Only the people in this room know we're moving tonight. If Vargas finds out, then we'll know exactly who to arrest. Hours crawled by. Miles sat in the equipment room, checking medical supplies for the 3rd time. Hemostatic gauze, trauma bandages, airway kits. Everything he'd need if this went sideways. Emma entered, moving without crutches now, her recovery faster than expected. Can't sleep either? Sleep's overrated. She sat on the table beside his gear. I wanted to thank you for everything. The rescue, the training, the tactical advice. You've thanked me enough. Have I? Because I don't think you understand what you gave me. When I was lying in that car, bleeding out, I was ready to die. I'd made peace with it, and then you showed up and refused to let me give up. That's the job. Combat medics don't accept death. It's more than that. You showed me what real courage looks like. Not the kind where you charge into danger, but the kind where you keep living even after everything's been taken from you. Miles stopped working, looked at her, really looked, saw the pain behind her eyes, the guilt she carried like a stone. Emma, what are you not telling me? She took a breath, let it out slow. My grandfather was a cop. Best man I ever knew. He was killed in 1987, bled out from a leg wound because his partner didn't know how to apply a tourniquet properly. My father spent his whole life feeling like better training could have saved him. That guilt ate him alive. He became a cop to honor his father, but my grandmother, the pharmaceutical mogul, forced him to quit. Said the family didn't sacrifice everything to watch him die in the streets. So he gave up his dream, worked a desk job, and spent 30 years hating himself for it. And you became a cop to honor my grandfather. To give my father the closure he never got. To prove that the Reeves family produces more than just profit margins. But mostly because I needed to know I could do something real. Something that mattered. Something that wasn't just moving money around and calling it a legacy. Miles understood then. They were both trying to save people who were already gone. He through training officers who'd never met Rachel. She through wearing a badge her grandfather and father couldn't. Grief made you do strange things. Made you chase ghosts and call it purpose. Your grandfather would be proud. I hope so, because if I die doing this, I need it to mean something.
You're not going to die.
You can't promise that.
No, but I can promise I'll do everything in my power to prevent it.
Emma pulled something from her pocket. A USB drive. What's this?
Security footage from the Reeves Pharmaceutical headquarters, the night I resigned. I want you to see it, to understand.
Why?
Because tomorrow we might die. And if we do, I want someone to know the real reason I walked away.
She left the drive on the table and walked out. Miles stared at it for a long time before plugging it into his laptop. The footage showed a boardroom, expensive furniture, people in suits. Emma stood at the head of the table, 26 years old and already exhausted. The audio was clear. Quarterly profits are up 17%. Shareholder value increased by $2.4 billion. We've exceeded every projection. Her voice was flat, mechanical. This is my resignation, effective immediately. Chaos erupted. Board members shouting, demanding explanations. Emma just stood there, unmoved. I've spent 5 years making rich people richer. I've optimized supply chains, cut costs, increased margins. And you know what I've learned? None of it matters. We sell medications that save lives, but we price them so high that people die because they can't afford them. We claim to serve humanity while serving shareholders. I'm done being part of that machine. She walked out while they were still yelling. The footage ended. Miles sat in the dark, processing. Emma hadn't left because she was bored or looking for excitement. She'd left because she couldn't live with the contradiction anymore. Couldn't profit from people's suffering and call it success. That took courage of a different kind. The courage to walk away from everything you'd built because it didn't align with who you wanted to be. His phone rang. Brooklyn's number. He answered immediately. Hey, kiddo. Everything okay? Her voice was small, scared. I miss you, Daddy. I miss you too, sweetheart. But you're safe there. Mrs. Chen is taking care of you. When can I come home? Soon. Just a few more days, I promise. Brooklyn was quiet for a moment. Daddy, are you scared? The question caught him off guard. A little. But being scared is okay. It means you care about something worth protecting. I'm scared for you. Don't be. I'm good at this.
and I have good people watching my back.
Okay. I love you, Daddy.
I love you too, Brooklyn. More than anything in the world. After hanging up, Miles sat with his head in his hands. 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes until they rolled out. 13 minutes until he put other people's children at risk so his own could sleep safe. The weight of it crushed him. If officers died tonight because his tactical advice was wrong, their blood would be on his hands. If they succeeded but Vargas escaped, Brooklyn remained a target.
If they failed completely, everyone died and Vargas won. There were no good options, just degrees of bad and the hope that training and planning could tip the scales toward survival. Stone entered the equipment room. Time to move. The command vehicle was a modified RV packed with communications gear, monitors showing feeds from body cameras and drones. Miles climbed in, followed by Emma and Stone. The radio crackled to life as teams reported in. Team 1 in position at front entry. Team 2 ready at loading dock. Team 3 holding rear perimeter. Stone looked at Miles. Any last-minute advice? Miles studied the thermal monitors. 12 heat signatures inside, more than expected. Vargas brought reinforcements. 3 on the second floor, east side. That's high ground. They'll have rifles. Snipers? Likely. Team 1 needs to neutralize the second floor before main entry, or there'll be fish in a barrel. Stone relayed the order. Miles zoomed in on another monitor. That heat signature at the rear exit. It's not moving. At all. Meaning? That's not a person. That's a heat source. He's rigged something. Incendiary, more likely than explosives. Rear door opens, the whole back section goes up. Anyone trying to escape dies. Martinez, keep Team 3 back. Minimum 75 meters from the rear door. That's not an exit. It's a crematorium. Miles's instincts screamed that something was wrong. This felt too easy, too choreographed. Vargas was smart, trained, paranoid. He wouldn't just sit in a building waiting to be arrested. Unless... Captain, what if the mill isn't the target? What do you mean? What if this is a diversion? Draw the entire police force here while he hits something else. Emma's eyes widened. The evidence lockup. We have 5 years of seized cartel assets there, including evidence from Rachel's case. Where's the lockup? Station basement. It's guarded, but not heavily. Stone grabbed his phone, dialed station security. No answer. He tried dispatch. Static. His face went pale. He's jamming communications. We're isolated. We need to get back to the station. If we pull out now, Vargas escapes. We have officers in position, ready to breach. Miles weighed the options. Officers at risk versus evidence that could bring down the entire organization. Lives versus justice. There was no right answer, just the least wrong one. We finish the raid. Then we deal with the station. If we abandon this operation, those officers are sitting ducks. At least here they have a fighting chance. Stone made the call. All teams, execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Team 1 breached the front door with a battering ram, flashbangs flying through the opening. The explosion of light and sound echoed through the night. Miles watched through body camera feeds as officers poured into the building. Gunfire erupted immediately, muzzle flashes strobing in the darkness. Contact front! Multiple hostiles! SWAT on the second floor engaged the snipers. The firefight was brutal. Close quarters, bullets punching through walls. One SWAT member took a round to the helmet, saved by armor, but knocked down hard.
His partner dragged him to cover, applied the tourniquet techniques Miles had taught. Officer down, but stable, continuing mission. Team 2 hit the loading dock, found stacks of crates. Heroin, fentanyl, enough to kill half the state. Morrison called it in, then got pinned down by 3 cartel members with automatic weapons. The gunfight shredded the crates, white powder drifting through the air like snow. Morrison took a round to the vest, the impact dropping him hard. He gasped for air, ribs screaming. His partner, Officer Davis, pulled him behind a forklift. "Can't breathe. Check for broken ribs. Is he coughing blood?" No blood. Wind knocked out, possible cracked ribs, but no penetration. Keep him down, let him recover. The team continues. Morrison wheezed but forced words out. "I'm fine, keep going." "Stay down, Morrison. That's an order from Carter. Your team moves without you." Team 1 cleared the first floor, taking 6 cartel members into custody, but no Vargas. The second floor fell next, snipers neutralized. Still no Vargas. Miles studied the thermal feed, tracking that stationary heat signature at the rear exit. Wait, it's moving now. He's going for the rear exit. No, he knows it's rigged. He's waiting for us to go for it. Then what's his play? Miles realized it a second too late. He wants me. This whole setup, the midnight raid, the changed plan, it's personal. He's been watching me for months. He knows I'm consulting. This is about finishing what he started 5 years ago. You're not going in there. Miles was already putting on body armor. He won't surrender to your officers, but he might come out for me. And if he has a dead man's switch on those explosives, storming him means everyone in the back half of that building die. We can negotiate. He doesn't want negotiation. He wants closure. 5 years ago, he killed my wife. Now he wants to kill me. Let's give him the opportunity. Emma grabbed his arm. Miles, you said you don't go into the field. That was the deal. You have a daughter, remember? Brooklyn needs you. Brooklyn needs a world where men like Vargas don't get to win. The words came out harder than he intended. Let me do this. He took the radio from Stone. Vargas, this is Miles Carter. I know you can hear me. You want me? I'm coming in. Alone. Unarmed. Let's talk. The response crackled back, accented English, cold and amused. Miles Carter. The ghost. I wondered when you'd show yourself. Come on in. Let's finish this. Miles walked through the shattered front entrance of Morrison Mill, boots crunching on broken glass and spent shell casings. The air tasted like cordite and fear. Emergency lights flickered, casting shadows that moved like living things. Detained cartel members sat zip-tied against the wall, 11 of them, faces ranging from defiant to terrified. None of them were Vargas. Officers parted as Miles passed, their expressions mixing respect and concern. He was walking into a confrontation with the man who'd killed Rachel, unarmed, relying on nothing but words and the slim hope that Vargas wanted him alive long enough to gloat. It was tactically insane, strategically necessary, personally inevitable. The rear corridor stretched ahead, narrow and dark. One door at the end, closed. Miles kept his hands visible, his movements slow and deliberate. Vargas, I'm alone. No weapon. Let's talk. The door opened. Diego Vargas stepped into the hallway, and Miles saw him clearly for the first time. Not a grainy surveillance photo, but flesh and blood. 38, stocky build, scar tissue mapping violence across his face.
military bearing in every movement, the kind of discipline that came from training and combat. In his left hand, a pistol. In his right, a detonator, thumb hovering over the trigger. The device looked professional, military grade, not some improvised explosive, but precision engineering designed to kill efficiently. Miles Carter, the ghost who haunts me. I've been waiting for this moment. Miles stopped 15 feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to maybe react if things went wrong. You've been looking for me. For 5 years. After your wife died, you vanished, left the military, disappeared into rural Montana. I assumed you were hunting me, building a case, planning revenge, but you were just hiding, raising your daughter, pretending people like me don't exist. I wasn't pretending. I was trying to give her a normal life. Noble. Futile, but noble, because here we are anyway. You can't run from your past, Carter. It always finds you. You made it personal when you killed Rachel. She wasn't a threat. She was doing her job. Vargas's expression didn't change. She pulled over the wrong vehicle at the wrong time. We were moving 50 kilos of heroin through Cedar Ridge. She stumbled onto it. I gave the order to eliminate the witness. Clean, professional, nothing personal. You shot her twice and left her to bleed out in the rain, because a single shot might not have been enough. 2 ensured the job was done. You were special forces. You understand tactical certainty. Miles felt rage building like pressure behind his eyes. His hands wanted to form fists, to attack, to hurt. But that's what Vargas wanted. An excuse to pull the trigger or press the detonator. So he forced himself still, channeled the anger into cold focus. You knew she was pregnant. Vargas paused, genuine surprise flickering across his face. I did not. The coroner's report wasn't released until after I'd left the state. 8 weeks, according to the file I read later. A son, they said. You lost both of them because of me. The admission hung between them, toxic and honest. Miles absorbed it, let it settle into the space where grief lived. Rachel and their son. Ghosts he'd never stop carrying. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand that I feel nothing about it. No guilt, no regret. It was business. Your wife was collateral damage in a war that's been going on longer than either of us has been alive. Cartels versus law enforcement. Predators versus prey. She chose the wrong side. Behind Miles, through his earpiece, Stone's voice crackled. Carter, SWAT has a shot. Give us the word. Miles tapped his collarbone twice, the signal for negative. Not yet. Vargas had a dead man switch. The moment he went down, his thumb would release and the rear exit would turn into an inferno. Officers were still clearing rooms near that section. Casualties would be catastrophic. Your men are in custody. The mill is lost. This is over. Surrender and you'll live. Vargas laughed, the sound harsh and devoid of humor. You think I care about the mill? About these foot soldiers? This was always a diversion, Carter. While your entire police force is here, my real team is hitting the evidence lockup at your station. 5 years of seizures, gone, including all the forensic evidence from your wife's murder. DNA samples, ballistics, witness statements. After tonight, there's nothing connecting me to Rachel's death. Clean slate. Miles's blood turned to ice. The lockup. Stone had tried to call station security and gotten no answer. Communications jammed. The skeleton crew left behind wouldn't stand a chance against a coordinated assault. You planned this from the beginning. The moment Emma Reeves started investigating me, I knew the police would eventually move against the mill. So I fed you intelligence, made it look like this was our main hub, and you took the bait. Every cop in Cedar Ridge is here, while my people take everything that matters. You underestimated station security.
Did I? Your station has 3 officers on night duty. Mine has 8 former Mexican Special Forces operators with military-grade weapons. The outcome was never in doubt. Miles's mind raced through scenarios. If Vargas was right, the evidence was already gone, or would be soon. Rachel's case, cold for 5 years, would go colder. Vargas would walk. Los Sombras would continue operating. Nothing would change except more people would die. Unless... You made one mistake. You're still here. If the lockup was the real objective, you'd be gone by now. So what are you really after? Vargas's smile widened, predatory and pleased. Very good. You're as sharp as your file suggested. Yes, the evidence matters. But what I really want is standing in front of me. Miles Carter, the medic who couldn't save his wife, the soldier who abandoned his oath, the father who's about to leave his daughter an orphan. I want you to know that everything you love will burn because you weren't strong enough to stop me. The detonator in his hand shifted slightly. Behind him, Miles heard movement. Emma's voice in his earpiece, barely a whisper. I'm in position. 2nd floor catwalk, 30 yards behind Vargas. Clear shot on the detonator, but it's tight. If I miss, everyone dies. Miles tapped his collarbone 3 times. Stand by. To Vargas, you brought Emma into this. Ran her off the road, tried to kill her. Why? Because she was getting close. 6 months of investigation, and she'd connected me to 4 different operations. She was smart, persistent, dangerous. I couldn't buy her off. Reeves Pharmaceutical is worth billions. What's a cartel lieutenant's bribe compared to that? So I eliminated the problem. Or tried to. You saved her. That made you a priority target. Hence the surveillance photos of Brooklyn. Psychological pressure. I wanted you afraid. Wanted you to make mistakes. Instead, you volunteered to help the police. Trained their officers. Analyzed my tactics. Forced me to accelerate my timeline. Do you know how irritating that was? Miles took a half step forward, testing. Vargas raised the pistol slightly, but didn't fire. Not yet. He wanted this conversation, needed it, which meant ego was his weakness. You said you read my file. What did it tell you? That you were one of the best combat medics in Special Forces history. 14 men saved under fire in Kandahar. Silver Star for valor. Expert in tactical medicine and emergency trauma care. You should have been hunting me for 5 years. Should have used those skills to track me down and end me. Instead, you delivered packages and avoided conflict. Why? Because I had a daughter who needed a father more than the world needed another killer. And look where that got you. Your daughter's in protective custody because I threatened her. Your wife's murderer is standing in front of you with a gun and explosives. Your peaceful life was an illusion, Carter. Violence always finds men like us. The only question is whether we meet it on our feet or our knees. I'm not on my knees. No, you're walking to your death. Brave, stupid, but brave. Vargas gestured with the pistol. Do you know what I find fascinating? You could have killed me by now. Your people have sniper rifles trained on me from multiple angles, but you haven't given the order. Why? Because you're holding a dead man's switch. You die, we all die.
partially correct, but there's more. You want answers, want to understand why Rachel died, want some grand meaning to justify her loss. But there is no meaning. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I was doing my job. That's all. Miles's jaw clenched. Your job is murdering innocent people. My job is protecting $1 billion enterprise. The fact that people die is incidental. You were a soldier. You killed people in service of your country. How is that different? They were enemies, combatants, people actively trying to hurt others. And the civilians caught in the crossfire? The families destroyed by drone strikes? The children orphaned by raids gone wrong? You think your hands are clean because you wore a flag on your shoulder? The moral equivalence was obscene, but Miles couldn't afford to get drawn into philosophy. He needed to keep Vargas talking, keep him focused on the conversation while Emma lined up her shot. In his earpiece, her breathing was steady, controlled. Target acquired. Detonator is the priority. On your mark. Miles needed one more piece. Vargas, before this ends, I need to know. Rachel. Did she suffer? The question seemed to genuinely puzzle Vargas. Why does that matter? Because I need to know if the last thing she felt was fear, or if it was quick enough that she didn't understand what was happening. Vargas considered this, almost thoughtful. The first shot hit her vest, center mass, standard targeting. She went down. The second shot, she was trying to get up, trying to reach her radio. She looked at me. Our eyes met, and she knew, understood exactly what was happening. So yes, Carter, she suffered. Not long, maybe 30 seconds before shock took her. But she knew she was dying, knew she'd failed to call for help, knew she was leaving you alone. Miles felt something break inside him, a dam holding back 5 years of grief and rage. His vision narrowed to a tunnel focused on Vargas's face. Every instinct screamed to attack, to hurt, to kill. But Emma's voice cut through the fury. Miles, don't. Stay focused. We end this the right way. She was right. Charging Vargas accomplished nothing except getting everyone killed. He forced his breathing steady, channeled the emotion into clarity. You made a mistake telling me that. Did I? I thought you'd want the truth. The truth is, you just confirmed you're a monster who enjoys inflicting pain, which means you won't surrender, won't be taken alive. You're going to force us to kill you and take everyone in this building with you. That's your end game. Very perceptive. Yes, I'm dying tonight either way, but I'm taking as many of you as possible, starting with you. Vargas raised the pistol, aimed at Miles's chest. In that fraction of a second, Miles made his choice. He dove left, committing to the movement, trusting Emma to do her part. The pistol fired, muzzle flash illuminating the corridor. The bullet hit his vest, impact like a hammer blow, knocking him sideways. Pain exploded through his ribs, but the armor held. Emma's rifle cracked from above. Her bullet didn't hit Vargas, didn't aim for his head or chest. Instead, it struck the detonator in his hand. The precision shot severing the wire connecting the trigger to the explosives. The device sparked, circuitry frying, and went dead. Vargas stared at his hand in disbelief. The detonator was junk, smoking and useless. He looked up at the catwalk, saw Emma, and something like respect crossed his face. Impressive. Then SWAT teams rushed him from both sides. 4 officers hit him simultaneously, professional takedown, driving him to the ground. The pistol skittered away. Vargas fought, but numbers and training overwhelmed him. Zip ties secured his wrists behind his back. Team leader called it in. Target down, building secure. Miles lay on the floor, gasping for air, ribs screaming. The vest had stopped the bullet, but the impact had cracked bone. Emma descended from the catwalk at a run, dropping to her knees beside him. "Miles, are you hit?" Vest caught it. Ribs might be broken. "I'm okay." She helped him sit up, her hands checking for blood, for wounds, for damage beyond what was visible. "That was insane. You could have died." "But I didn't, and neither did anyone else. That's what matters." Stone appeared, looking between Miles and Vargas with an expression mixing relief and fury. "You disobeyed orders. You went into an active combat zone." "I know." "You also saved every officer in this building." Vargas would have detonated if SWAT had breached. The casualties would have been catastrophic. That was the gamble. Stone extended his hand, helped Miles to his feet. "Officially, you're fired as a tactical consultant. Unofficially, you're a damn hero, and I owe you everything. We all do." Officers emerged from various parts of the building, escorting detained suspects, carrying seized evidence. The final count: 14 cartel members in custody, including Vargas. 4 officers wounded, none critically, all stabilized using the techniques Miles had taught. 0 fatalities. Against all odds, everyone was going home. But the victory felt hollow. Vargas had said the evidence lockup was compromised. If that was true, Rachel's case was gone. 5 years of investigation wiped clean. Miles keyed his radio. "Stone, we need to check on the station. Vargas claimed he had people hitting the lockup." "Already on it. Dispatch just came back online. Apparently there was an attempted breach, but station security held them off. 2 suspects in custody, 1 security guard wounded but stable. The lockup is secure." Miles felt the tension drain from his shoulders. Vargas had failed. The mill was lost, his people arrested, his plans shattered. And the evidence that could connect him to Rachel's murder remained intact. It wasn't resurrection, couldn't bring her back, but it was justice, delayed and hard-won. Paramedics arrived, checking Miles's ribs. Cracked, not broken, they determined. Painful, but manageable. They wrapped him, gave him painkillers he refused. He needed his head clear, needed to see this through to the end. Vargas was loaded into a transport vehicle, surrounded by armed officers. As they walked him past Miles, he met his eyes one last time. "This isn't over, Carter. Los Sombras is bigger than me. Bigger than this operation. You think you've won, but all you've done is make yourself a permanent target. Maybe, but you'll be watching from a cell. That's good enough for me. We'll see how long that lasts. I have lawyers, resources, connections. I'll be out in 5 years, maybe less. And when I am, I'll finish what I started." Emma stepped forward, voice cold and absolute. "You won't live that long. I'll make sure of it. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, you'll answer for every person you've killed, including Rachel Carter." Vargas smirked. "The billionaire playing cop. You think your money scares me? My money doesn't scare anyone, but my commitment does. I've already dedicated my life to this. I'm not stopping until you're gone, one way or another." They loaded Vargas into the vehicle and drove away, sirens wailing. Miles watched the taillights disappear, feeling something settle inside him. Not peace, not closure, but a sense that the scales had shifted, however slightly, toward balance. The ride back to Cedar Ridge took an hour, Miles sat in the command vehicle, Emma beside him, both of them silent. What was there to say? They'd survived. Vargas was captured. The evidence was safe. But the cost had been high. Officers wounded. Brooklyn traumatized by being pulled from her life. Miles's ribs felt like someone had hit him with a sledgehammer. And somewhere in all of this, the knowledge that Vargas was right. This wasn't over. Would never truly be over as long as cartels existed and people like him ran them. At the station, chaos reigned. Officers debriefing, suspects being processed, paperwork multiplying like weeds. Stone pulled Miles and Emma aside into his office. The evidence lockup was hit by 8 armed men. Station security engaged them immediately. 2 suspects down, 6 fled. We recovered one of the wounded, and he's talking. Turns out Vargas lied to you. About what? The attack on the lockup wasn't to destroy evidence. It was to retrieve something specific. A ledger. Financial records detailing Los Sombras operations going back 15 years. Names, amounts, distribution routes. Everything we'd need to dismantle the entire organization from top to bottom. Did they get it? No. Security guard named Marcus Webb took 3 bullets defending that room and didn't go down. The ledger's intact, and Webb's in surgery but expected to survive. He's a hero. Miles absorbed this. Vargas hadn't been trying to erase evidence of his crimes. He'd been trying to protect his organization. Which meant the fight was bigger than one man, bigger than revenge. Los Sombras was a hydra, and cutting off one head accomplished nothing if the body remained intact. How many people are implicated in the ledger? Over 200. Distributors, money launderers, corrupt officials. We're talking federal racketeering charges, conspiracy, murder for hire. This is the biggest bust in Montana history, and it started because Emma was investigating Vargas. Emma shook her head. It started because you saved my life. If I died in that wreck, the investigation would have died with me. You're the reason any of this is possible. Miles didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process being called a hero when all he'd done was what anyone should do. Help someone in need, stop someone evil, protect the innocent. Basic human decency dressed up as valor. I just did what needed doing. That's what heroes always say. Stone pulled out a folder. There's something else. DNA evidence from your wife's case was compared against samples taken from tonight's arrests. We have a match. Diego Vargas's DNA was found on Rachel's patrol car, on the driver's side door handle. He was there, Carter. We can prove it. The words hit like a physical blow. Proof. After 5 years of cold case status, of suspects who vanished and trails that went nowhere, they finally had concrete evidence linking Vargas to Rachel's murder. It wouldn't bring her back, wouldn't undo the pain or fill the void, but it meant she mattered. Her death wouldn't be forgotten or written off as an unfortunate incident. Someone would answer for it. What's the timeline for charges? DA's office is working on it now. With the DNA, the ledger, and the testimony from tonight's informant, we're looking at multiple life sentences without parole. Vargas will die in prison. Good. Miles stood, wincing as his ribs protested. I need to see Brooklyn. She's been in that safe house for 3 days. She needs to know her father's alive, and this is over. It's 3 a.m. Maybe wait until... She hasn't slept through the night since Rachel died. If she's awake, I need to be there. Stone nodded. Emma rose as well. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. I want to. Brooklyn should meet the person her father risked everything to help. And I want to meet the girl who kept you fighting when you wanted to give up. They drove through the pre-dawn darkness, exhaustion pulling at them both. The safe house sat on 20 acres of forest, lights visible through the trees. Miles parked, and before he could get out, Brooklyn appeared on the porch. She must have been watching from the window, must have heard the vehicle approach. She ran to him, and he dropped to one knee despite the pain, caught her as she collided with him. "Daddy!" "Hey, kiddo. I'm okay. Everything's okay." She pulled back, looked him over, saw the bruises forming on his face, the way he held his ribs. "You're hurt." "Just a little. Nothing serious. The bad guys are caught. You're safe now. We can go home." Brooklyn hugged him again, tighter this time, and Miles felt her shoulders shake as she cried. All the fear she'd been holding in for 3 days came out in great heaving sobs. He held her, stroked her hair, whispered reassurances until the storm passed. When she finally calmed, she noticed Emma standing nearby. "Who's that?" "This is Emma, the police officer I told you about. The one I helped." Emma knelt down to Brooklyn's level. "Hi, Brooklyn. Your dad saved my life. I owe him everything." Brooklyn studied her with the serious intensity only children possess. "Are you nice to my dad?" "Very nice. He's teaching me and my friends how to be better at our jobs." "Good. He's really smart. And brave, even when he's scared." Emma smiled. "Those are the best kinds of brave, when you're scared, but you help anyway." Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway, relief evident on her face. "Thank God you're all right, Mr. Carter. Brooklyn's been so worried. Thank you for staying with her. I can't tell you how much that means." "It was my honor. She's a wonderful child. You've raised her well." Miles drove Brooklyn home, Emma following in her own car. The sun was rising as they pulled into the driveway, golden light spilling across the street. Their small rental house looked exactly the same as when he'd left it, but everything felt different. The shadows that had haunted it for 5 years seemed less oppressive. The weight of grief that had made every room feel like a tomb had lifted, just slightly, just enough to breathe. Inside, Brooklyn went straight to her room to sleep. Miles started coffee, his body running on fumes and adrenaline. Emma sat at the kitchen table, looking at the drawings on the refrigerator. Your family, still just 2 figures. But maybe that could change. Maybe. Miles poured 2 cups, handed her one. What happens now? With Vargas, the investigation, all of it. Federal prosecutors take over. The ledger implicates people in 5 states. This is going to be a years-long prosecution. They'll want both of us to testify.
And Los Sombras? Without the ledger, without Vargas, without their distribution network, they're crippled. Not dead, but broken. It'll take them years to rebuild, if they can at all. Miles sipped his coffee, let the bitter heat ground him. You're going back to being a cop. If they'll have me. I violated about a dozen protocols during the raid. Technically, I wasn't cleared for field duty. That shot I took could get me fired. Or it could get you commended. You saved lives. That counts for something. Emma looked at him, her expression unreadable. What about you? Going back to delivering packages? I don't know. Teaching those officers, being part of something that mattered, that felt right in a way nothing has in 5 years. But I have Brooklyn to think about. Can't keep putting myself in danger and expect her to be okay with it. What if there was a middle ground? Training police officers in combat medicine, consulting on tactical operations, helping without being in the line of fire. That's what I was supposed to be doing this time. Didn't quite work out that way. Because Vargas made it personal. Most operations won't involve the man who killed your wife. Most will be straightforward tactical analysis and training. You'd be saving lives without risking your own. Miles considered it. The teaching had felt good, natural, like he was using his skills for something meaningful instead of letting them atrophy. And the officers had responded, learned, improved. Morrison had survived being shot because he knew how to apply a tourniquet. Grant had saved his teammate because he understood pressure points. The training worked. Maybe that was his path forward. Not soldier, not victim, but teacher. Someone who turned pain into preparation so others didn't have to suffer the same losses. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Emma stood, set her cup down. I should let you rest.
You've been awake for 30 hours, and you have cracked ribs. Sleep. Heal. We'll talk more later. Emma. Thank you. For the shot. For believing I knew what I was doing. For trusting me. You earned that trust the night you pulled me from a burning car. Everything since has just been proving you're who I thought you were. A good man trying to do right in a broken world. After she left, Miles checked on Brooklyn. She was asleep, finally, clutching the stuffed bear Rachel had given her for her 5th birthday. He stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, and felt the crushing weight of almost losing her. If Vargas had gotten to her, if the safe house had been compromised, if anything had gone differently, he'd be planning a funeral instead of watching her sleep. But she was safe. Vargas was captured. The evidence was secure. Against all odds, they'd won. It didn't erase the past, didn't bring Rachel back or heal 5 years of grief, but it proved that doing the right thing, even when it hurt, even when it terrified you, could make a difference, could save lives, could change outcomes. Miles went to his bedroom, pulled out the box from under his bed. Inside, his medals. Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. Commendations and citations from a life he'd walked away from. He thought leaving it behind would bring peace. Instead, it had brought stagnation. Hiding from his skills, from his purpose, from the man he'd been trained to be. Maybe the answer wasn't choosing between soldier and civilian. Maybe it was integrating both. Using military skills for civilian purposes. Saving lives without taking them. He pulled out one more item from the box. A sealed envelope marked, "If I don't come home," found in Rachel's locker after she died. He'd never opened it. Couldn't bear to read her last words. But tonight, after facing Vargas, after almost dying, after realizing how close he'd come to leaving Brooklyn an orphan, he needed to know what she'd wanted to say. His hands shook as he broke the seal. Inside, Rachel's handwriting, neat and careful. My dearest Miles, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it home, and I'm so sorry. I know you'll blame yourself. You'll think you should have protected me. But Miles, you can't protect everyone from everything. That's not weakness. That's being human. I need you to do something for me. Don't let this consume you. Don't let my death define the rest of your life. Brooklyn needs a father who can smile, who can love, who can show her that even when the world breaks your heart, you keep living. You're the strongest man I know. Not because you're a soldier, but because you're kind. Because you save people. Because you choose to help even when it's hard. Promise me you'll keep helping people, Miles. Promise me you'll let yourself be happy again someday. And promise me you'll teach Brooklyn what you taught me, that real courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and helping anyway. I love you. I love you so much. Take care of our baby girl. Forever yours, Rachel. Miles read it 3 times, tears streaming down his face. She'd known. Even before she died, she'd known he would retreat, would hide, would let grief turn him into a ghost. And she'd asked him not to. Asked him to keep being the man she fell in love with. The medic who saved lives. The soldier who stood between the innocent and the dark. The father who taught courage through example. He'd failed that promise for 5 years. Let fear and pain dictate his choices. But tonight, facing Vargas, saving Emma, protecting Brooklyn, he'd taken the first step back toward being the man Rachel had believed he was. It wasn't redemption, wasn't salvation, but it was a start. 3 months later, Miles stood in a community center classroom teaching 20 civilians emergency response techniques. The sign above the door read, Carter Emergency Response Training, Free Community Classes. Inside, nurses and teachers and construction workers and parents practiced CPR on mannequins, applied tourniquets, learned pressure points, skills that could save lives when professionals were too far away to help. Most people freeze in emergencies. That's normal. But muscle memory overrides fear. Train enough, and your hands know what to do even when your brain is panicking. A student raised her hand. What if we make a mistake? Then you make a mistake. But doing something is always better than doing nothing. I've made plenty of mistakes. People still lived. After class, students thanked him and filed out. Emma entered, wearing her detective's badge, fully recovered and promoted. Hey, stranger. Congratulations on the promotion. Thanks. Couldn't have done it without you. She handed him a folder. Thought you'd want to know. Vargas and the Levin associates just pleaded guilty. Life sentences, no parole. It's over. Miles opened the folder, saw the mugshots, the charges, the convictions. Felt nothing except a quiet sense of closure. Thank you. There's more. DNA from Rachel's case matched 3 other unsolved murders. Her investigation led to closing 4 cases. She helped people even after she was gone. Miles processed this, feeling Rachel's presence somehow. She would have liked that. How's Brooklyn? Good. Really good. She's back in regular school, making friends. Even joined the soccer team. And how are you? Better. Some days are hard, but I'm teaching, I'm helping people, I'm being the dad Brooklyn needs. That's enough. Brooklyn ran in with Maya, Emma's niece, both girls laughing. Dad, we finished our homework! Can we get ice cream? Did you finish all of it? Yes! Maya helped me with math. Miles looked at Emma. You two want to join us? I'm free. They walked outside into the evening light, Miles and Brooklyn and Maya and Emma, comfortable and easy like family. Brooklyn took his hand. Dad, can you teach Maya that first aid stuff you taught me? She wants to learn how to help people too. Sure, kiddo. We'll do a lesson this weekend. The girls ran ahead, their laughter echoing. Emma walked beside him. You're good at this. Being a dad, teaching, letting people in. Rachel would be proud. I hope so. I'm trying to keep my promises to her.
I think you're doing more than that. You're showing Brooklyn what real strength looks like. Not the kind that never breaks, the kind that breaks and heals and keeps going anyway. Miles looked at his daughter, happy and safe, looked at Emma, alive and whole, looked at the bracelet on his wrist with its worn inscription, "Never leave a fallen." He'd thought it meant never abandoning soldiers on the battlefield, but it meant so much more. Never giving up on people. Never giving up on yourself.
Never letting grief turn you into someone who walks away when the world needs you most. Sometimes the only way to protect the people you love is to face the things that scare you most. Not because you're fearless, but because fear is the price of caring, and caring is the only thing that makes us human. They walked together into the golden evening, survivors and fighters and broken people who chose to heal, proving that even in a world that took everything, you could still find reasons to stand up, to help, to live. Not perfectly, not without pain, but with purpose, with dignity, with the knowledge that doing the right thing when it hurt was the definition of courage. The road ahead stretched long and uncertain, full of challenges they couldn't predict and losses they couldn't prevent. But they'd face it together, teacher and student, father and daughter, cop and consultant, building something new from the ashes of what they'd lost. Not replacement, not forgetting, but honoring the dead by choosing life, by helping others, by refusing to let evil win through their silence or fear. Miles Carter had been a soldier, a medic, a ghost. Now he was simply a man trying to do right by the people he loved, and the memory of the woman who'd asked him to keep helping, even when it hurt. That was enough. That was everything. That was the promise he'd keep for the rest of his life. One saved life at a time. One taught skill at a time. One moment of choosing courage over fear. The world would keep breaking hearts. People would keep dying. Evil would keep testing the boundaries of what good people would tolerate. But as long as there were people willing to stand up, to fight back, to save strangers and teach skills and refuse to accept that suffering was inevitable, there was hope. Not naive optimism, not blind faith, but the hard-won knowledge that every person who chose to help instead of hiding made the world incrementally better, one decision at a time. And in the end, that accumulation of small choices, small victories, small acts of courage in the face of overwhelming darkness was all that stood between civilization and chaos. Miles had learned that lesson the hardest way possible. Now he spent his days teaching it to others, hoping they'd never need to use it, but knowing that when they did, they'd remember the skills, the training, the fundamental truth that real strength came from helping others, even when you were afraid. Brooklyn squeezed his hand. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, kiddo. More than anything in the world." And in that moment, walking into the sunset with his daughter and the people who'd become his new family, Miles Carter finally understood what Rachel had been trying to tell him in that letter. Life wasn't about avoiding pain or hiding from loss. It was about choosing to live fully despite both, about finding meaning in service, about proving through action that love was stronger than death and hope was stronger than grief. He'd keep his promises, all of them, to Rachel, to Brooklyn, to Emma, to every person he'd trained and every life he'd touch going forward. Because that was what medics did. They saved people. They gave them second chances. They stood between death and the living and refused to let go until every possible option was exhausted. Miles had been given a second chance the night he found Emma dying in that wreck, a chance to be who he'd always been underneath the grief and fear, a chance to matter again,
a chance to prove that even broken people could heal themselves by healing others. He wouldn't waste it. Not this time. Not ever again.